And we're live.
No countdown or anything.
No, I don't like the new StreamYard countdown music. It's really like just too calming, too relaxing. It's not
Not
exciting.
anxiety inducing enough.
Yeah, I want it to be like a ticking time bomb. Something's about to go down.
Like, watch out! Here come these two jamokes.
Yeah. Right. How's your new comic book day going?
Oh, great. Read
Poison Ivy's dropping this week. Gotta get a bunch of variants, right?
Yeah, the Joshua Swaby variant. Real nice.
He's been doing great work lately. I feel like he's had a lot of great variants the last year or so.
Yeah, but hey, I just finished reading a bunch of Absolute titles, so I guess we're gonna find out how we're doing in a minute.
Yes, over to the DC side of the game here. We are DC all tonight. We're going Absolute, Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. All if you thought there wasn't enough Absolute, we have absoluted the Absolute tonight. So
we're going absolutely buck wild.
There it is. There it is. So yeah, this is New Comic Book Day Book Club, the show that Alec and I have been doing for about 6 years now, right? Something like 6 years. Crazy.
Yeah, at least
6.5 maybe. So
feels like 10.
That's how people act when they're dealing with me. Yeah, so this is our look at what's on the shelves at your LCSs. Specifically, we're looking at the books from April. Here at the start of May, we're looking back, and several new Absolute titles have jumped in. You've heard us talk about Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in the past, and in particular our we are fans of the Wonder Woman, the Absolute Wonder Woman series. Can I say? Are you still reading? I don't know if you're still keeping up with it.
I'm not up to date with anything. Basically, my TBR has become overwhelming.
I would say all of my feelings about the 3 that we reviewed have stayed the same. They've just expanded perhaps to more issues. So I would recommend Absolute Wonder Woman. It is the clear winner for me overall, but we'll see tonight. Maybe we change our feelings when we add 3 new titles into the list here. Let's say hello to some friends. We got Ruben Guzman tailgating. What's going on, Ruben? Good to see you, sir. We got Rob Boswell in the chat. He's seeing some white whale action going on here. We got Chris Lopez. He's saying, I'm just following John around this week. When the notification bell rings, I must answer. Fair. Because in 2 months, or sorry, not 2 months, 2 days, that's how tired I am. I have an entire box of awesome comics I'm giving away. So you better be there. Win some good stuff. We got TJ in the chat. I haven't seen enough of this gentleman of late. How are you doing, sir? It's been a month. It's only the 7th day of May, but it's been a month. Absolute poop. Well, that's the thought.
We'll find out in a minute.
It could be butt wild. That would be pretty wild. We got Phil's Treehouse in the chat. I can't tell what that is. Is that a mouse?
I believe it's a chipmunk.
A chipmunk. All right. A little PBR. Is that what Rob's feeling? A little PBR.
Well, no, because I said TBR, and so he's giving me a hard time. Because I said
the TBR went to a PBR. I can feel that. Christina Payne is in the chat, the moderator extraordinaire. Hello, my friend. Yeah, so tonight we've got 3 Absolute titles to add to whatever you may already have on your pull list. As a reminder, this show will be back on Alec's channel at the start of June. So there's the link. Go over there so that you're ready for the next round, because you're absolutely going to want more of this magic. Just telling you.
That's a lot to live up to.
So we've got Absolute Flash, Absolute Green Lantern, and Absolute Martian Manhunter. Do you have a preference where you want to start? Is there one of these that you're like, I really want to at least talk about, whether good or bad, one of these?
Not unless you do. We can do them alphabetically, or if you want to talk about one over another, it's your channel.
I mean, I don't know that I have like a passionate desire for any one in particular. So looks like Martian Manhunter is what Rob wants.
Well, I will say there's one I liked, one I was on the fence about, and one that I did not care for.
I'm probably in the same boat, although I found all of them to be kind of middling to me. I didn't really have a passionate emotional response to any of them, like I did say Wonder Woman or Batman. Like Wonder Woman and Batman for me are on polar ends of this whole absolute spectrum,
Sure.
and everything else is kind of in the middle.
Okay.
But that's me. So let's start with Manhunter then. We've got this is by Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez, a reimagining of, I always called him John Johns, but I guess it's John Jones, the Martian from Mars.
Not
The
MMA fighter.
No, sadly, that might have been an interesting take. Make him, he's comes to Earth and becomes an MMA fighter.
I mean, it's not too late.
This one, I think, had, I would say, one of the more interesting abstract styles that we've had up to now, as far as the visual look of the comic was very interesting. Artistically, I think it was unusual by comparison to a lot of big two comics these days.
Yeah. At some point in our conversation, I have a question for you because you said you read this digitally. I'm curious about the end of the book, but we'll get there.
Okay. Do you want to? I mean, this is the one that's going to be the hardest for me to explain. Do you think you can explain the story for this one?
Sure. It is about an FBI agent who was involved in some sort of seemingly terrorist bombing situation at a coffee shop where he was in the building when the bomber came in. He somehow miraculously survived with nary a scratch on him. And we see him at the doctor's who's checking him out and going over his x-rays and stuff, who he says, no concussion, there seems to be nothing wrong with you. You can get back to work. And his wife is very much concerned that he was just involved in this traumatic, both physically and mentally traumatic situation, and that he is not going to take any time off. And we begin to see him kind of not really lose his mind, but kind of he starts seeing this kind of multicolored smoke coming out of things and then coming out of people, and he starts inhaling it. And he's kind of seems to have gained the ability to not necessarily read people's minds. I'm not quite sure how it works yet, but he is able to kind of get to the heart of people and their secrets and what they're not telling him or what they are telling him being lies. And he is, against the direct orders of his superior, is investigating this bombing that he was involved in. And there's a few references throughout referring to him as a Martian, but it's kind of more, I took it as more kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, oh, this guy's a weirdo, he's a Martian. And even his kid makes a little sculpture of the family and he looks like an alien. And then by the end, you see that he was, it appears as if he was saved by this strange looking being, which is why he did not get hurt in the,
that guy.
Which
maybe saved him in some regard.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
I mean, I think so. There's a lot of abstract going on here. For me, there's definitely a lot of sequences that were like, I was trying to wrap my head around kind of what was going on, which is not a bad thing. There's definitely been a lot of books that we've enjoyed that forced the reader to kind of figure out what's happening all on their own.
So, I mean, I found it less confusing and more intriguing, and especially because the main character that we're following isn't in the know and we're not. We are going on this journey with him, and he is just as confused as we are.
100%.
So with him kind of as our guide through this story, and this is only a mini series, unlike I think all the other titles are ongoings.
Yeah, I thought all including Green Lantern and Flash, they're ongoing, but this one's not.
I didn't thought so, maybe not, but Curious. This one is definitely, as far as I know, at the moment planned to be a mini series.
Okay.
So yeah, with him kind of acting as a guide to hold your hand through this.
Yeah. Because he has the same questions we have.
Right. He's kind of like, we're in this together, sort of thing, rather than this mysterious character who just is choosing not to tell us anything and being aloof. Like,
right.
So I feel more comfortable in that scenario with it being confusing, because we are told indirectly told that it's okay that this is confusing. This is supposed to be confusing.
Yeah. Visually, it's a very interesting comic.
Yeah.
I felt like there was a lot of pages that really had me spending time examining the artwork.
Yeah. Out of these three, without a doubt, my favorite art.
100%. And
leaps and bounds.
And it's, for me, it's second to the Wonder Woman comic, which I think has what started off, for me at least, really with some really strong original take on that character and her universe as well. So those two artistically were my favorites. How did you feel about the story? Was this your middling one?
No, this is the one that I really liked out of the three. I just thought it had a more unique way of telling a story. Like I said, the art really drew me in. The colors are very unusual. They're not necessarily primary, but they're very bold and flat, and just not something you normally see in like mainstream comics. Which is cool to see, especially in something like Absolute books, them kind of trying something a little bit different. And I think maybe because this is a mini series, they were willing to say like, okay, you can go a little hog wild with this one. It kind of, in a way, reminded me of like a Silver Surfer Black, where it's, like a Trad Moore type of like trippy acid trip type of weirdness.
Yeah, I can see that.
I will say though, since this is a mini series, I probably am not going to keep buying it all, because I think it'll be a really nice trade to peruse and read through. But yeah, I mean, it has some like interesting stuff. Like, again, this is something that maybe didn't translate as well on the iPad, but there was 2 pages. Let me see if I can actually find it, where he's talking to his bosses. Yeah, here it is.
Oh yeah.
And how like it's this, kind of the same scene, but all tripped out on one side.
Sure.
So there was like a lot of interesting stuff like that. And well, I guess might as well talk about this now. The thing at the end, I don't know how this worked on the iPad.
This last page, or?
Yeah, there's actually 2 more pages.
I have this one.
Yep.
And then this one.
Yes. So go back to. Okay. So yeah, at the bottom of the actual book, you get this extra little thing down here. Oh yeah, you got it.
The girl reading the book. Oh, okay. You can hold it up to the sunlight.
Yeah, so you can actually, let me see if I can do it here on
So it
screen.
like overlays is what happens.
Yeah.
Because it's on the back of that page. Oh, interesting. Curious. Yeah, because the light shines the other way.
Yeah. No, that's not going.
But I get what you're saying. You can see
yeah,
the two characters on top of each other.
Right. So I thought that was kind of like a cool thing. Like I've never, I mean, Mad Magazine Fold'em pages, but like I don't know a superhero comic where you could hold a, like an interactive element like that to a comic. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. No, and I wouldn't have, if you hadn't explained it, I would not have known it was in there. So that's a kind of cool little add-on. What's up, Rod? Good to see you, buddy. Hope you had a good day at the beach. It looked like you were having fun today. Yeah, so my question, I guess, is obviously the absolute universe allows them to change these characters and do something different with each one of them, and they've proven that with several of these heroes up to now. Does this book seem to imply that this is not the Martian Manhunter we've had in the past, where it's just one individual, but some sort of a meld that has occurred? That's how I took it, was that there are now like two entities in one person.
Right. Is it sort of a Venom host situation where the Manhunter is a body snatcher of sorts, or like not a parasite, but a symbiote where it chooses a host, or is it a gift that is bestowed upon someone, like a Green Lantern's ring? Is it, I mean, it could be really anything. And I think it is interesting that because, even though Batman and Wonder Woman kind of changed some stuff, they were still, for the most part, the same deal. I mean, I guess Wonder Woman didn't come from the tribe of Amazons because she's the last Amazon, and Batman's mom is still alive, and he's not a billionaire, but he's still
a little more subtle, I think. Yeah, but definitely like
where it's not. They weren't like full reimaginings of the characters. Where this, I'm not quite sure if it is yet or not, which is at least interesting to not be so certain in the first issue,
right?
And not have well, get to that later. It just felt like kind of a fresh take on something, and I, same thing with the Ultimate Universe. And I guess I complained about Ultimate X-Men being not an X-Men book, which I still stand by, but at least it was okay. We have this Ultimate Universe where we can do anything, and Peach Momoko tried something different, whereas, Ultimate Spider-Man, while he has a family and he doesn't get bit by the radioactive spider as a teenager, he's still just Spider-Man. And Black Panther is pretty much still just Black Panther.
Yeah, that one seems definitely more consistent.
With Batman is still just Batman, even though he's swole AF.
And he has an
axe on his chest. I think, and I understand, like Spider-Man and Batman, I'm sure, Marvel and DC told the people working on that, hey, don't mess with this too much because it's our bread and butter. Right. Whereas Martian Manhunter, they were like, yeah, who cares? It's Martian Manhunter. Do whatever you want.
Just make it fun.
We get an absolute plastic man or something, I'm sure they can do something weird with that too. But
there you go.
Absolute Superman, don't mess with Boy Blue.
And I definitely know that there is that kind of thing happening at the big two, as far as like there's only certain toys that you're allowed to play with in the sandbox. Everything else has to kind of like be treated with a certain reverence.
But also, like, I feel like sales wise, Ultimate books and Absolute books are doing better than their regular counterparts. I mean, I haven't looked at actual sales data, but it seems to me that those are the books that are being ordered a lot. So what does that say?
Definitely true. And I think the Ultimate Wolverine and Ultimate Spider-Man are in the same boat.
Yeah. So, I mean, what does that say about the universes proper, where they're being outsold by these new reimaginings? Is that because people are just so sick of the same old stuff, or
maybe
is it because they can get new first appearances that they think are going to put them into a retirement bracket? That
seems less like it. For me, it's got to be more of an IP kind of a thing, where they're like, this is a fresher IP that we can have a longer, control over, and allows us to make something fresh, like Miles Morales or whatever.
I'm thinking of it from a consumer standpoint of why are people buying these in higher numbers?
I think they're enjoying them. I mean, from what I can tell, that seems like to be a lot of buzz and excitement around something and the novelty of it.
But they just relaunched ASM, and I haven't heard word one about that.
Yeah, I didn't read it.
No, I didn't even buy it because I don't care.
The last ASM book I bought was Red Goblin. that bridge done be burned. Not going back for anybody. What's up, Gore Vidal? He says, Rodriguez is an interesting artist. I don't know his influences, but his style reminds me of Jaime Hernandez and Steve Rude from his Nexus years. And he says that they're selling well where he lives, and he's in a Marvel-dominated town.
I didn't know towns were swung like that. Like it's a gerrymandering situations where some towns are red and some towns are blue.
The Great Lakes Avengers are very popular up in a certain area.
You would think they would be, but they still aren't.
Sort of popular anywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, I would probably give this one a 7.5, maybe, out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to say 8. Like, the art kept my interest. Like, regardless of the story, I wanted to keep looking at it. Didn't like blow me away. It didn't. I'm not yelling and screaming about it, but it was intriguing and it was pretty and it was enjoyable. So I out of the 3, this one is the one I can recommend the most. Spoiler alert.
Fair enough. All right, gang. We got 2 more absolute DC comics to get into here. Let's go with our guy Jeff Lemire. Let's go with the Absolute Flash. So let me change our banner here, like a putz that I am here. This one is far more classical as far as like what we traditionally would get from a DC comic, in my opinion. You got Wally West dealing with this new ability, the Speed Force that he has sort of been corrupted by. Art in this one is Nick Robles, and so this one, of course, in typical Flash comic style, jumps back and forth in time. We keep getting like Flash in the desert. Wally is like being overwhelmed by the Speed Force, and then jumping back to a couple of days ago, and he's trying to, like, I guess, let us know kind of what happened, how he got into this mess in the first place. You get to see him as an army brat, living on base, not having a whole lot of friends. The only person that seems to give him a lot of time or focus or energy is Barry Allen, the scientist working on the base. He's got some very unusual experiments going on, and offers Wally the chance to maybe be an assistant, which instant red flag for me. It's just
so like, regardless of the grooming innuendos, it's like an absolutely wild setup that he's on this top secret army base, which I don't know a ton about the army and how that works, but as far as I know, families don't live in the restricted area.
No,
they live in housing outside of the restricted area, and random teenagers are most certainly not allowed to just wander around into top secret experimental areas that seemingly have no guards. And like they do get like angry at him for letting him down there. But like, what authority does he have to just start hiring 15-year-olds to work in this top secret government lab where
they're building like inventions that they can't even fully talk to him about?
Right, which he does say are weapons.
Yeah.
It is just.
I'm glad this not bothered you as much as because it literally stopped the whole story for me frozen.
Yeah,
like I just
absolutely. It
dead stopped.
The
because you don't. Here's the other thing: you don't even need.
Disbelief was like so far beyond anything we could do.
Yeah, it was. Where is it? It was butt wild. It was butt wild.
I mean, like, and it would have been so easy if, and maybe it was just too long to set up this way, but if we establish that he has this relationship with Barry where he's kind of the surrogate father figure and he sneaks into the lab to see what's going on.
You don't need this. That's the whole that was my whole thinking. You don't need the moment where Barry is a really bad mentor. You need the moment where Wally is a foolish teenage kid. Like, give us that moment. That's far more believable and relatable, and you get the same end result.
Right.
It's like a zero-sum game for me.
I would say you even get the end result done better because he's talking about how he messed up. He did this bad thing where I guess he did. Like, we haven't really figured out what he did that was so wrong. But he was at one point invited down there, even though he goes back down a second time. But he doesn't really sneak in. He just kind of goes there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any security measures, no badges that need to be tagged.
If he had snuck in to see what's happening in the middle of this experiment and kind of botched it somehow,
right?
I feel like that would have been a better path to get there.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Meanwhile, in the present, in the desert, he's being hunted by a quad of characters that are semi-recognizable, whether it's Captain Cold or Boomerang. They've basically been sent by the military to collect Wally.
Mm-hmm.
So the story kind of bounces back and forth between these moments. It does seem like Wally has a little bit of like moments where little question marks pop up, like he is maybe aware in some manner that his consciousness or his body is zipping around. He has an argument with Dad. We get to see the argument with Dad. We get to see him storm out. We get to see him basically
absolutely gruesome line to his father.
Does he? I don't remember what the line
he
was.
Says,
"If Mom were alive, we'd both have left you a long time ago."
Yeah, that's pretty brutal.
That's rough. Yeah. So yeah, you're right. He sneaks up to the lab where he sees all these crazy experiments, and then a siren starts going off, and he's like, "What's going on?" And then he sees somebody in a dome saying, "Get away, Wally! Get away, son! Go!" And he's like, "Is that my dad? I can't." Somebody's wearing like goggles. Something's going on. Then it jumps back to him running away from the military guys who are catching him, and so it sort of skips back and forth between these two things. And it ends with him, like, basically, you see Barry Allen in some weird costume, like as a skeleton, and he's like feeling remorse for whatever happened to Barry in this crazy scientific disaster. And then we get 1 year later, deep into the future, and little glimpses of Barry or of Wally's, superhero journey, and some creepy person in goggles looking at the whole thing, and that's kind of how it ends.
Also known as a last page villain reveal.
Yep. But I didn't know who it was. I don't know Flash villains well enough to know who it's supposed to be. Maybe there's people that are like geeking, like, oh damn.
So
my beer.
we touched on this briefly before we went live. I did read issue 2 of this book, which is only issue 2 I've read of these 3 so far.
Okay.
And I don't want to get into it too much, but that character is not represented in the second issue
at all.
At all. The second issue focuses on Wally kind of running away or trying to evade the bad guys who were hunting him through the desert, and the whole time jump thing is becoming more and more understandable to him and the reader as to what's happening, because he actually references the fact that, like, I'm here, but I'm also there. So he is starting to understand that he can see the past and the future and the present all at the same time.
Okay. So I was reading that right, at least. Okay.
Yeah. So, but it becomes much more, I guess, just confirming. They confirm that is what is happening. And then guess what? It ends with the last page villain reveal.
Another one?
Yeah.
Jeff Lemire off to a strong start.
Yeah. No. So
I actually like story that doesn't have a daddy issue.
I actually like the second issue better than the first issue.
Okay.
Kind of bummed that it ended also with a villain reveal, just because.
Why?
There's already 4 villains chasing him.
That's a great point. And we had a villain reveal as well in the last issue. So, like, this is villain number 6 then, right?
Yeah.
And the real antagonist seems to be Dad and Barry. So.
Right. And also, right, we not only have the question with Barry, we have the question with his dad. We have 4 guys chasing him. We have his own internal struggle, which is a villain, with him not really understanding what's happening to him.
Yeah.
And then we get yet another villain at the end of this issue. So it's just, I don't know. That was kind of a bummer. Overall.
And I was disappointed because, I mean, I like Jeff Lemire, and this was easily, of these 3, this was, spoiler, this is my least favorite. This one didn't work as well for me.
Yeah, something I was just thinking about is that I obviously am, I would say, a Jeff Lemire fan. Like, I like a lot of his stuff, but I can't think of a single superhero book that he's done that I really liked. Like, I liked Animal Man, but that's Animal Man. That's kind of like something different. It's not really a superhero. It's, kind of its own thing. But like all the books I really liked by him are like Descender and
his indie stuff,
Quest and Fish Flies and Underwater Welder and
Black Hammer.
Yeah, like all these things where it's, and
not the big 2.
Yeah, but he still has done a lot of big 2 work, but none of it's really grabbed me the same way as his greater own stuff has.
Sure. So. He did I want to say like a Batman and Robin or something that I thought was halfway decent, but I wasn't crazy for it. It was with him and Dustin Nguyen, I want to say.
Oh yeah. That was a mini series, right?
Yeah. I enjoyed that one. So yeah, my issues with this book is that it's just all the typical comic tropes, but none of them done particularly well, I guess is what I would say. So it feels terribly unoriginal, and then none of the notes fall with any like emotional weight. Everything just kind of is happening. There's like a 3-page scene between him and Barry when they're first talking about the lab, and it's like really flat. Like there's not a lot of emotional connection between the characters. Everything just kind of is cheap, boring dialogue that is full of bizarre plot holes. Like I just don't get why these characters would be liking each other, spending time with each other, connecting, relating to each other, why they're breaking all the security protocols to be doing this. Like it throws logic out the window in a massive way. And ultimately makes me side with the dad when he bursts in on them and is livid
saying, what
about what's happening. He's the only person speaking logic in this whole dang book. And he's treated like an antagonist because he's obviously disagreeing with the protagonist, but he's treated like a villain. And I think he's the only person talking sense in this whole stupid thing.
And I mean, like, he's understandably angry in that moment, but then back home where he's talking to him, he's like, hey, I just wanted to talk about what happened yesterday. Like, he seemed to approach it in a very calm and rational way. And then Team abusive dad. And I consider Jeff Lemire like a pretty intelligent writer, so it's so weird that he did something that is just so insanely illogical in storytelling of this huge hole in the plot, where it's like, why would Barry do that? Or how was he allowed to do that?
Yeah. How did he achieve this level of insanity?
And how was he not immediately arrested?
And then to your point, it just becomes a weird, instead of a connecting us deeper to Wally and his plight and his journey, it seems to just be like, let's just throw a ton of time jumps and villains at you and try to make that seem like that's now the story. And it just, again, it carried no weight. Like, it just was just like a lot of stuff thrown at the screen and none of it really adding to anything substantive in the end for me. So it was super comic tropey. It had all the things that you would expect from a comic book, but without any deeper emotional layer. So at least, the Superman book did I think a fairly good job of giving us an emotional connection to Kal-El and this version of him and his frustration with the plight of the working man or whatever, in those stories. But I could understand why Kal-El cared the way he did and the motivation that he had. But this is a very odd way to try to get me to relate to Wally.
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the reason why this was kind of, I don't want to say on the fence about, because like the end of the day, I didn't really enjoy it that much, but because like it was a comic book, it felt like a comic book. So that's why I was like, okay, very readable.
Right.
It was fine. It was stupid in some parts, but I don't know, maybe issue 2 made me like it a little bit more just because it's, it felt like a more complete and thought out issue, but
sure, that's fair. I felt it showed the high level of importance that Wally's dad has for his son to have free reign at the base. His father's clearly a top dog at it. I mean, yeah, but
there's still a topper dogs who can say a 15-year-old shouldn't be walking around top secret areas
where there is like brand new weapons grade technologies being experimented with.
Yeah.
Like, it's a little concerning how casual the protocols are. And then he walks right back in there later, like without any protocol between him and his home and their facility.
Right. Because at least Barry the first time has to like put his handprint on, and so they don't really explain how he gets in the second time. He just kind of wanders in.
Yeah. It's crazy. Those are some pretty big plot holes that kind of left me scratching my dome. All right. So for me, I mean, I think that one felt.
Oh, you are frozen. Or my
Wi-Fi froze up a little bit on me there.
Yeah, there you go.
So I was saying it's probably about a 5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'd give it a 6 just because I guess I liked it more than I hated it. So I'll give it a little point towards the positive.
All right. Fair enough. Yeah, Legion, you missed us talking Martian Manhunter, which seems to be the high water mark of the 3 absolute books that we're talking about tonight. For at least for the two of us, we felt like Manhunter was the one that maybe would be more likely for us to continue reading it going forward. I'll do my best. And is that ironic that Martian Manhunter was fire? Isn't that his weakness?
Because he doesn't like fire. Yeah.
He no likey. Which brings us to our last book for the 3 that we're doing tonight. We've got the new Green Lantern. We had Absolute Green Lantern. Let's see here. There it is. This one by Alec Ewing, and I'm going to struggle with the artist's name. Janoy Lindsay. There you go.
Sure.
Let's try that.
Not familiar with them.
This one seems to be the most unusual take on that mythology. The focus seems to be Hal Jordan at the beginning, and we've got Hal, who has been he seems to have been corrupted by something. And obviously, it's supposed to tease us with the concept of him as having this power ring, which we know as the origin of the character, right? And he mentions things like Abin Sur, the alien in the original story that gives him the ring. He mentions an accident out in the desert, and there's certain like things that seem very similar. But then eventually we see it's this black shadow goo darkness venom like substance that sort of erupts out of him. So it has this kind of like horror vibe almost for him and what he's going through. And we have some flashbacks where we see him and his friends in the Air Force. We've got him with John Stewart and Joe Mullen, who is the Far Sector Green Lantern in the current universe. And you get this trio of them and their friendship a little bit in some flashbacks here to give us some familiarity with three different Green Lantern characters that we may have some knowledge of. And as the story with Hal kind of progresses and what he's got going on, we also get Joe showing up, and she's got the ring that we're more familiar with, and then they have their confrontation. I'm skipping over some stuff. We get this crazy Green Lantern symbol in the middle of the desert that has sort of come down and crushed some things in the desert. But the concept seems to be more that Hal Jordan is potentially the villain, or at least corrupted by this villain substance, and that maybe the Green Lantern in this story is going to be Joe. Is that?
Well, I think definitely it is, because she has a ring at the end, and she's on the cover as Green Lantern, which is actually my first point of contention with this, which is, you didn't necessarily know what was going on with Hal Jordan through the book until the end, or towards the end, but you knew he wasn't Green Lantern because the cover spoils who's the Green Lantern. So that was kind of a bummer that reveal, while still a reveal because you didn't know what you thought, maybe he still had a ring of some sort.
Right.
Instead, he has this black symbiote again, going back to the symbiote.
There's a lot of Venom connections this time around.
But yeah, then she busts in the door and saves the day, kind of, and is the Green Lantern. And you brought up something that I was going to bring up, which is the horror element to this. And in Nine Pale Grid says, I do dig the idea of this being a horror tinge book, but it's not like it should be, but it's not a horror issue.
It doesn't. You mean like it doesn't go far enough?
Yeah, like it should be, like, the horror aspect, I think, should have been forced so much harder. And part of the reason why I think it doesn't land for me is because the art was a big thumbs down. And for a horror book, did not fit at all, because the art in this is goofy.
I mean, I wasn't that bothered by it, but it definitely wasn't as traditional as Flash, or as perhaps as original and interesting and captivating as Martian Manhunter.
Well, it's very like anime-like.
Yes, but it felt like digital artwork too.
As soon as I saw this guy and the cop and his freaking beady eyes, like, what is this? And yeah, it looked, the art looked unfinished. It looked like roughs that they didn't have time to clean up. It was just, I and like I enjoy anime, I enjoy manga style. I don't read a lot of manga, but like I still appreciate it. But this art was not it.
Yeah, so like some of the so I get mine over here. Like some of this just felt very like flat to me.
Yeah.
Like digitally, like it was putting things digitally out of focus. It just came across as really bland.
Yeah,
overall,
and it was,
I don't know that I hated it, but it definitely it worked, but it wasn't like anything that drew me in. I did like the way they used lighting, because obviously they give you Hal Jordan's like creepy, he's been corrupted by some evil look.
But it felt so oppositional to the direction of it going in horror.
Okay, just because it had a brightness to it, you think?
It just had a cartoony feel. It didn't have anything that elicited any horrific feelings for me. But like the idea of Hal being taken over by this entity that he doesn't really understand, and it kind of killing people at a whim without him being able to control it. And he actually gets shot at one point, and he says, well, at least maybe like I hope it kills this thing along with me, and then it heals him. And he's like, kind of like, well, crap, like what am I supposed to do now? Like, you're not gonna let me die. And I thought that line was like, should have been so powerful, but it felt so flat because we didn't get enough time with him to understand that he was struggling with this thing. We just get him struggling with what happened previously to him getting to this diner. So we
like
don't know
the bikers and the big Green Lantern logo that like crashes down, and then Abin Sur, which I think Mark mentioned in the chat. Where is it?
Looks like Frieza.
There's some Dragon Ball, and Mark mentions Dragon Ball Z too.
Majin Buu.
But he's massive, right?
Yeah, it's a big boy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like this idea that like he is at a point where he hopes he dies and takes this thing with him is not established at all. At least from what I read. And then we get a last page hero reveal, which I guess is better. At least it's a twist. It just, I don't know. It frustrated me in the same way that Episode 3, Star Wars Episode 3 frustrates me, where it has the most potential to be something really cool, and it's just dropped.
And do you think that is mostly due to the artwork, or is it just a combination of maybe some lazy writing and the artwork?
I mean, the artwork did not help anything, but I felt like, honestly, like I could have done without all of the flashbacks in this first issue and just stuck with Hal and really explored what he's going through psychologically and what he's struggling with emotionally, because like I don't need to know what happened that caused him to be this upset, or what caused him to have this black stuff on his hand. Like that can be revealed throughout the next few issues. What I want is to know what he's doing and what he's dealing with and what he's going through, and what this means that he is, totally evaporating police officers because they threaten him. And is he doing that, or is the black stuff doing that, or is it a combination? Like we don't, and I don't need answers to all of this, but, and Legion of Comics says, yeah, I enjoy having questions and wanting to read the next issue and find answers. Totally. And that's what I found actually interesting about Martian Manhunter, was that I wanted to find out what the answers to my questions are. Whereas for Green Lantern, I don't care, because I wasn't made to care. The characters, I did not connect with at all. I don't care what happens to them. I don't care what has happened to them.
Are you talking about like emotional stakes, maybe, like for the characters?
Yeah, like Martian Manhunter, the main character is kind of snarky and kind of
he's closed off a little bit and isolating.
Yeah, and even in Flash, like Wally West is a kid who's dealing with a lot of teenage angst and emotion, and so like you can connect with that in a way, even though neither of us really loved the book. At least there's something that connects you to the character, whereas this version of Hal Jordan is just, he was very not even two-dimensional.
He's a red shirt ultimately, right?
Yeah,
he's the one that gets captured by the creature, and then our hero's gonna have to deal with it. But here's my issue, and maybe it ties into yours. If this is a Joe Mullen hero book, we don't really get to know Joe and spend any time with her. If it's a Hal Jordan villain book, we don't get to know Hal and what he's going through. Instead, it just seems like we're kept at a distance from these characters in a way, and the focus is on Hal, but not in getting to know him, just getting to see what's happening to him.
right.
And Joe is this side character who kind of pops in, and so ultimately I felt like there was no main character here, and it was just kind of the focus seemed off as far as like where the story was. For me, what I liked about it was the good sci-fi. I liked there were some fun science fiction elements with the big, alien and the bizarre things happening to the characters on Earth, and this weird green symbol that crashes down and apparently crushes some biker gang. Like that stuff I found was like, it was interesting, but without any emotional stakes. I just felt like I didn't care enough to see, like, I don't know if Hal has got somebody back home he's trying to like protect and keep safe from this thing that's corrupting him. I don't know if, all I see is just somebody who looks like they're slowly dying and something's killing them. And I don't know that I felt any of that. It would just felt kind of flat emotionally versus, again, like I think Martian Manhunter, there was a layer to him, and the questions that I was left with were questions that I was like, ooh, he doesn't know him either. This is something we're on a journey to figure out. This one just felt like the story felt like they hadn't thought through what they want to tell us.
Yeah, I feel like it either should have been about Hal and, what has led up to, from the point of him walking through the desert to the point where Joe shows up at the door, or it should have been about this town and dealing with this, huge disaster that is not only a disaster, but something that is not comprehensible, like having a huge green symbol appear out of nowhere and crush an entire town. I also talking about, but yeah, it wasn't either of those things. It was both, but neither. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Speaking of
some great comments going on here in the chat.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I saw 9 Panel saying books like Green Lantern show the importance of visual storytelling as an aspect of this medium. Great art. Without great art, we can lose so much weight in a story. Both of them talk about absolute Wonder Woman. Despite being the best and strongest story, some people, the artwork was a turn off for them, which, if you need traditional art in a comic, maybe that's something that isn't working for you. But it sounds like both gentlemen agreeing that that's the one that's been the strongest for them as well. Yeah.
I was just going to say that this had a much smaller, ridiculous moment, similar to Flash, where he's at the diner and there's emergency broadcast interruption of this newscaster who's talking about this disaster that occurred in this town, and then she's handed a piece of paper and she's like, oh, we can't talk about this anymore. First of all, no one's handing newscasters paper anymore. They just talk in their ear. Like, what year is this? Number two,
he did it on a typewriter.
when like the press is not beholden to the government or any government agencies in a way that they could call up the station and say, hey, don't talk about this anymore.
Here,
newscaster
take this paper out to the Newton reporter on location.
Yeah. While on air, just this hand just comes in from off screen. I don't know. That
you could have
really
easily done it with just like, some soldiers coming in and, clearing them out, as it would have served, I think, the same function. That didn't stick with me too much.
Clear anybody out, because from the looks of it, this town consisted of the three of them eating lunch at a place that was not occupied by any other patrons or employees, and some bikers who were driving 100 miles an hour through this small town. Like there was nobody else on the streets. So I don't know. The whole thing was just off.
I don't even know where to go with this.
Okay, Legion of Comics. Yes, obviously the media has. Well, we're not going to get into all that. Theoretically, the media should not be beholden to government agencies. We have a free press in this country that has the freedom of that press.
Yeah, I don't know where I thought this story was going to go, but it's not here. Oh, man. But for me, what I want out of a good Green Lantern book is a sci-fi story that leaves me with a bunch of excitement for where this could go. And there are elements of that here. I just feel like the focus is off, and where they're putting the amount of I think they could have put more time into seeing these characters before the event at the beginning of the story, or I guess it technically happens in the middle of the story. And I think if they had put the focus a little bit more on seeing these soldiers and the lives they're living and the families and whatever that they've got, I think it would have created weight. And then when the defining incident occurs and we see it would be fine if we spent the focus on Hal Jordan and saw how it impacted him.
That's what I'm saying.
But by that point, we would have been invested in Hal and his struggles and what he's going through. And then when Joe shows up with the ring, we're like, oh, dang, it affected somebody else too in a different way. Right. I think it would have had, the beats were off because the focus was kind of screwy.
Yeah. And even like the scene with the three of them sitting down and talking, I didn't get a sense of any of their characters. There's so much time was wasted on them trying to set up their friendship, but like I didn't really care, and I didn't get a sense of who they were, and I don't know. It just lit.
It seems like we got Sheena in the chat. What's going on, Sheena? Thank you so much for coming by. I appreciate you. Air quotes are needed for this discussion. For me, I think I might have liked this one more than you. This one felt more like a 6 out of 10 for me.
Oh, this was like a 4. Okay. And a big part of that was the artwork. I just I don't know what, clearly Hal is at least emotionally and mentally struggling against this entity that's on his hand. Like he doesn't want to kill these people that it's killing. But we don't get the sense of him trying to struggle against it. We don't get the sense of him, besides him not taking his hand out of his pocket. Like, we don't get that moment of him going, no, don't do this again.
Yeah.
It's just, oh, well, my hand's going to do what a hand's going to do. If I'm being threatened, it just does it. I don't know, man.
And it's not like he's like going out in the middle of the desert just to stay away from people. He's like rolling into diners and stuff.
Right. And like, he just... That was another funny moment that I thought was like weird. He walks into this diner and the waitress says like, something I can help you with, or something like, not have a seat anywhere, or I'll be right with you, hon, or something I can help you with. It's like, you're a diner open to the public. What do you think he wants? He wants food and or beverage.
Oh my goodness.
And then he just orders water.
Yeah.
Why does he stick around? if he's so worried about it. You're right. Like, why is he?
He seems to be seeking out populated areas and not seeking out assistance. Like, he works for the military. Like, you think he would be going to somebody that could help him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But instead he runs into this cop who's just patrolling the desert.
Typical. Gotta catch those turistimos riding through on their Harleys.
Yeah, at 100 miles
warriors. Yeah. So it seems like we're both still. Wonder Woman is the peak of this absolute era. Martian Manhunter might potentially have the possibility of getting onto the higher end of the scale overall. But the other two books, middling to low end at this point.
Yeah, 9-panel grid, exactly. The elevator pitch for this book does seem so strong. That's what I was trying to articulate, is that this should have been a home run. The concept is great. The execution is terrible. And like, not like Al Ewing is a schlub. Like, he is, he's done Immortal Hulk, which was a horror book.
And Green.
Yeah, there you go. So you could have just copied and pasted his strip. It was just replace Bruce Banner with Hal Jordan, and there you go.
Right. I will say, Mark, and it may be that I haven't read the second issue, I felt like the dome was a little poorly explained to me. And I got the sense that this thing crashed, but I didn't get the sense that everybody was stuck underneath a dome after it landed there.
Right.
I didn't get that sense. If that is, then I don't know that it was explained well enough.
I got the idea that maybe like the people outside couldn't see in, but the people inside could see out, or vice versa. I don't know, but yeah, it wasn't made clear.
So maybe I need the second issue to help me with my pea brain issues,
or maybe just let this one lie.
Well, there you go, gang. Three absolute book reviews in one issue and one episode. Can you believe it? It says, wait, can't until you all read issue 2. It services a lot of your questions from issue 1. There you go. Drew Manchu says, absolute Green Lantern 1 was an absolute miss for me. And that's kind of where we fell as well. Not clear. Drop that score, John. I mean, I did. It was a 6. 6 is not a great score. I don't think I was like cheering for it.
I give it a 3 or a 4. I don't know. 3.5.
You gave it a 4. Yeah, I thought you said 4.
It's going down already.
Just the more we talk.
The more we talk about it, the more I dislike it.
But of the 3, sounds like we're in the Martian Manhunter side of things. If you're looking to try one of these out, maybe that's the one to give a go. But if you have not given Absolute Wonder Woman a shot, that's where you need to be going. That's where your money needs to land.
But if you want to check out Absolute Martian Manhunter, wait for the trade, because it's going to be a complete story. It's going to read better, I'm sure. Unless you really want the floppies. I'm not going to tell you how to spend your money.
Fair. So next month at the end of May, start of June, we'll be over on Alec's channel to tell you a little bit about some of the stuff coming out in May. I do believe the final issue for Grommets is dropping, so maybe we can check in on how that wraps up. Finally,
today or next week?
It might be this Wednesday. It might be today. So that's one thing that we might at least mention, because we both have read everything up to now. At least I know I have. Wonder Woman Volume 2 is much better art. I may give it another go. Everyone's got their feelings on that. Waiting for Absolute Condiment King. Coming soon to a comic shop near you. But thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. I've got 2 more live streams scheduled for this coming few days. I got Friday, I'm doing the big 3K giveaway extravaganza. Lots of shenanigans there. And then Saturday night, I'm hanging with Carlito and Mr. Gretzky, and we're continuing our favorite films discussion. I think we're in the top 20 now, 20 down to 11. So lots of good shenanigans there, and maybe some movie recommendations as well. And then Sunday, we are not on Alec's channel for D&D, because not only is it Mother's Day, it's his birthday. So happy birthday, sir.
I'm turning 107.
Not a day over 105. That's what I want to do.
Thanks.
But in 2 weeks, likely, we would be over there for D&D on Sunday night on Alec's channel. Anything else so you got coming up? I know that our buddy Bear Island dropped a video today that I need to watch later.
Yeah.
Came out of retirement.
I heard he was doing that. I don't think it's comic related though. At least when the last thing he told me he was working on.
He's been doing videos that are like about like a FIFA soccer video game that he plays, and he basically animates it into like a story. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything else going on at the moment as far as YouTube is concerned.
Okay, so there you go. But just a heads up, yeah, if you're a Bear Island fan, you got something to look forward to.
And you should be,
right?
Whether it's comic book related or not.
Some chaos. Well, some people are really not liking that Absolute Wonder Woman artwork. So,
I mean, I get it. Like it is divisive, and I understand it. I happen to like it, but I understand why people don't. There's some artists out there that people don't like that I don't understand. There's some artists I don't like that everyone loves. Todd McFarlane. So
he's got the great curls in all the guy's hair.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. If everyone liked the same stuff, it'd be boring. So
this is true.
I don't fault anyone for their opinions.
Nope. Yeah, I do agree. It was a lot for a lot of people. I know there was definitely some people not the biggest of fans. Yes, Bear Island is back. Chad, the Comic Core Chad, has been popping in on live streams. This is a throwback to 2020. We've time traveled. All right, gang. Well, I appreciate you all coming and hanging out with us, and make sure you're subscribed up for next month, because we'll be talking at least grommets more than likely, but probably some other goodies over on Alec's channel next time around.
I'm sure you can find something. A couple of new image books are coming out next week, I think.
Oh, nice. There you go. So maybe back to our usual indie comic shenanigans.
Exquisite Corpses.
Okay. I don't know what that means. Is that the name of one of the books?
New James Tynion book.
Oh, okay. Nice. Okay.
I think that's who's doing it. I don't know. We'll talk about it later.
Sounds good. All right, gang. Have a good night. We'll see you soon.